This time it is fix it and flip it. We're working on my 1966 International 1100 short bed pickup truck. Here's the story. I just bought this truck from MotorTrend TV. You may recognize it from an episode of Roadkill Garage, or actually a couple of episodes, where Dulcich and I found this thing up in the Fresno area, and it had been sitting in a guy's warehouse for about 20 years. It was all covered with dust, flat tires, and we pumped it up, cleaned it up, made it run, tuned it up, fixed the brakes, and got it working. Now, since then, it's just been sitting in the MotorTrend warehouse, so it's a little bit worse for the wear. Here's my specific problems. Notes from the MotorTrend warehouse. Does not run, which I think that's wrong. Ignition issues. Didn't know about that. Carb catches fire. That's no surprise. And sketchy brakes. You can see it's a little bit muddy. For some reason, one of the brakes is locked up now. Somebody spilled a bunch of gear oil in the bed, and it is just kind of filthy. So in this quick video, you're gonna see me clean this up, get it running well again, in order to see if I can sell it and make a little bit of dough. The first thing I have to work on here is the right front brake, because that wheel is locked up. So this is not gonna be fun. I have to take off the wheel, see if I can get the drum off, and figure out what is binding in there to keep this from working. That's nice and muddy. The drum is separate from the hub. You can see how it's moving on the hub like that. And I can feel something's bound up here, but not so much down here. You know, I don't remember that much about what I did on all the TV shows. I know we worked on the brakes on this, partially because I remember it, and partially because this brake hose is brand new, and so seems to be the wheel cylinder. One of you who saw the Roadkill Garage episodes probably screaming into your TV right now, trying to explain to me what I did wrong here. But I'm gonna find out from scratch. I think I am gonna get some prying screwdrivers, see if I can get any motion out of this up here. All right, tool run. All right, I'm trying to get the drum off now. Oh, that's kind of working. Not really. Using the right pry bar for the job here. Either a spring is wedged up in there, or a shoe is cocked sideways, or maybe, I don't know, stuff's wrong one way or the other. Wow, that's on there. I'm waiting for that one spring where it all happens, you know? The way it's springy, it seems like it's caught on a shoe. But the springs are springing. Is it really just adjusted way too tight? Now I'm going through the hole in the backing plate, just backing the shoes off to see if that's gonna help. You know, while I'm doing this, I will say, I totally loved this truck when we found it. I think it's great. I would personally leave it bone stock and just tool it around. That said, it would be way better if it had a V8 in it. And some would say it would look way cooler if it was slammed on the ground. This thing will take such a tall tire. Man, just stuffed. I admit it would look good. I don't know if I could be the guy to do that. Dave Chappelle could be the guy to do that. Ooh, that sounded promising. Aha, it's gonna come off. See how it's coming out more and more? There, we got it. Bam. I got it off. Now I have to find out why it was stuck. It could just be that the brake shoes were so soaked with fluid that they expanded, but that doesn't seem to be it. I don't know. Let me stare and fiddle for a little while. This whole front drum brake situation is going to be kind of unusual for some of you whippersnappers if you haven't seen anything but discs before. If you saw me going through the back of the backing plate right here with a screwdriver, what I was doing is turning this wheel right here. And that is because this adjusts where these brake shoes come out and touch the drum. If you put them all the way in, then the shoes are barely on the drum. If you screw it all the way out, then it touches the drum. Here's how this works. There's a cable right here, and when you back the car up and step on the brakes, it cocks the brake shoes a little bit, which activates this cable to do this. Comes up and pulls this lever, and then as it comes down, it turns that wheel. This is what's called a self-adjuster. Well, I should say it's supposed to turn that wheel. It's a self-adjuster. It constantly is just keeping track of the clearance between the brake shoe and the drum. That's what I was doing, is adjusting this guy right here. And it might just be that this was adjusted pretty tight and that we did get some brake fluid on the material on the shoes. Because when you do that, they can swell and they can get a little bit gummy. And if you look inside this drum, you can see that it does have some gummy deposits in it. And I don't see any other mechanical failure here. So I think what I'm going to do is clean up these shoes, clean up the drum, sand the drum a little bit, put it back together and adjust this probably looser than I otherwise should, just to make sure that we don't have that issue again. The drum is all cleaned up and good. So are the shoes. I Scotch-Brighted them and cleaned them all off, and I'm not supposed to touch them with my fingers after I do that, but I am. Here's the thing. Yeah, the brand new wheel cylinder was installed but not tightened. Hard to say who to blame for that, so I guess I won't say. Ooh, I was about to say, let's blame Wiley, because we always used to blame Wiley because he wasn't there, so it was his fault. Which reminds me to remind you to go check out the Steve Dulcich and Wiley Stevens YouTube channel. It's called Shifted Official, or you can search Steve Dulcich and you'll come up with it. And those guys have been cranking out videos every week, so you should give that a look. All right, I'm gonna cinch down this wheel cylinder, which by the way had nothing to do with the problem that we're having. The wheel cylinder was not cocking the shoe out or anything like that. Not that it was good. The brakes roll. When you buy this truck from me, I might suggest that you look at all of this stuff. A lot of it's new, like that wheel cylinder and the hoses that I can see from here, but also I remember that we needed to zip tie some of the brake hard lines down out of the way, and I don't know, it's probably safe, but should be looked at. Oh, also the tires are brand new. What are these? The Trailblade, the Arturo Trailblade. What size are these? 235/75 15s. You know what? This truck can take such a bigger tire and would look so much cooler if you did that. Like way cooler. But I think we were just going for the stock wheels. There you go. Okay, I'll put this together, put it back down on the ground, and decide what the next task will be. I tried the brake pedal and the truck still rolls, so I think I'm good. I'm gonna move on to making the engine run because, as you know, the windshield says ignition issues and does not run and carb catches on fire. So let's address that. But first, do you think that the International Harvester logo is a guy sitting on his tractor? Look at it. It's like, that's his head, that's his back, and he's going away from you, and those are the tractor tires. Anyway, that's the way I always saw it. Let's dig in. Okay, here's the engine. This is an International BG241. I've just told you everything that I know about this deal, aside from the intuitively obvious, like it's an inline six, and it has an oil bath air cleaner, and somebody installed some very 70s air horns on it. And I know that it runs and drives okay. I've probably driven this thing 150 miles for the TV show, and I liked it. It was smooth. But from what I understand, it is now a dead player, which I don't really believe. I think I'm gonna get it fired up, no problem. But I do need a battery, so I'm gonna go steal one of those, and then I think go straight to cranking it and find out what happens. I do remember the carburetor catching on fire pretty good with this, so I'm gonna take off the oil bath air cleaner, because when the carb catches on fire, your oil bath also tends to go that direction. Ooh, look at that new Holley carburetor. I don't remember doing that either. Let me put this down. Should I hit it with some ether, or should I just assume that it's going to be okay? Oh, wow. That sprays gas. This thing's gonna run. Oil bath is off, battery is in, carburetor has fuel. Transmission is in neutral. It is a 4-speed. See if it runs. Not cranking. Why? It's not like it has a clutch interlock. Nope. I thought that battery was good. The first battery I put in was junk. Naturally, there's not a good one anywhere here in the shop. I had to go pay $100 for a super cheapo battery, and now we're gonna see if it'll crank again. Does not run, ignition issues, carburetor catches on fire. Well, so far it runs. Carb hasn't caught on fire. Purrs like a kitten, as Dulcich would say. Runs like a sewing machine. You know what? I've met us. I should have checked to see if it has oil before I did that. Let's have a look at fluids. Brakes are fixed, batteries in, fluids are checked, everything's good. I'm actually gonna drive it up and down the block before I go any further. Oh, bolt fell out of that. Have to fix that. Has oil pressure, has tach. Temp gauge doesn't work. All right. That was a pretty big victory. I mean, the last time I drove this truck, it was fine, but surviving the warehouse like that, win. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is start cleaning it up. Starting with the interior. I have no idea what all this stuff is in here. Looks like I got some bonus parts. It should not surprise you to know there's a set of brake shoes in here. Ooh, there's some oil. All right, I'll pick through this later. I just want to clean up the interior. All kinds of brake parts. Hoses, shoes. I don't know if that's because we need them or because we guessed that we needed them. There's a starter here. Here's a little insight into how the TV shows worked. They were legit. meaning they were not scripted. We didn't really have a plan. We just made it up as we went along. However, we did have a limited number of shooting days. So in situations like this where we knew we had a truck that we had to rescue, we would often buy more parts in advance than we ended up actually needing, because in production time, it made more sense to just have the part there than to stop for 2 hours and go buy it. So that's one of the things that was not perfectly realistic about it, but it ends up giving me a bunch of spare parts. The doors on this thing are huge. And look at the dash. The shape of the dash reminds me of an upside down front bumper for a 71 or 72 Roadrunner or a Satellite. Man, look at the industrial quality. And it says Big Red right there. I think that was the name of this truck at one time. The instruments look like aftermarket stuff just put into a steel panel. Oh, by the way, the truck was originally a 3 on the tree, and the guy I got it from converted it to factory 4-speed. So that's a pretty good upgrade. It's remarkably comfortable. It's very roomy in this thing. Wow, the headliner is still in it. And look at this sort of add-on shelf for your goodies. Your pack of cigarettes or whatever you had back in 1972 when you were driving this around. What is this? You know a truck is good when it has not one, but 2 saddle blanket seat covers, and they're both the really old thick ones instead of the modern ones with like holes for airbags and all sorts of junk you don't need. And now my favorite thing, pressure washing. This has got all sorts of gear oil, all disgusting in the bed. And of course the paint is kind of chalky and the engine is just a little bit grimy. So I'm gonna be pressure washing all of those things and then giving it a Comet wash. Let me get this stuff out of the bed, but then the first thing I'm gonna do is underhood. You can see I've got the carburetor covered up. As far as the distributor, I'm just gonna try not to spray it directly, and if it has a problem, I'll dry it out after. Okay, well, it's not concourse, but it's not grimy. Let that dry off a bit. Now I have to go degrease the bed. Somebody spilled 90 weight all over it. The bed came out pretty clean. I'm happy. You know, I think that this gray spatter paint is probably not original. I think somebody must have done that. But anyway, all that 90 weight's off of there, or most of it, and it's pretty good and doesn't smell as bad. Now we move on to the Freiburger Comet Wash. You've seen me do this a bunch of times. Basically, you take some kitchen cleanser, powder, Ajax, barkeeper's friend, I don't care. You take a scrubby sponge with the blue Scotch-Brite on the back, and you can take old oxidized single stage paint and scrub it, and you'll remove dirt, oil. There's a bunch of oil on the hood from another car on top of a lift dripping on it. You can even get rid of little rust stains. I'm gonna do the top first just to make sure that there's no disasters with me doing this. I don't want to scratch it all up, so I'll mostly try it with the soft side of the sponge, and if I hit anything hard or really dirty, I'll use the scrubby side of the sponge. I just want to make sure I'm not going to scratch it all up because the original paint's pretty good. Okay, let me wet it down and start to Comet Wash. Test panel completed. I Comet washed the top, and then I even hit it with a little bit of hand wax, and it just leaves a nice even sheen, no more dustiness, a little bit more color, bit fewer stains. It's really good. Now all I have to do is the rest of the truck. I am not a paint polish guy, as you may know. However, if you are a patina polish guy, this truck could be genius. It would come up and shine so hard. I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna finish the Comet Wash. Bam! Last night I waxed this thing up, which, as you may know, is extremely unusual for me, but it came out super, super nice. I think I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. If you cut this thing with some 1000 grit and really put some polish to it, it would be nice. And in waxing it, I did confirm it is 100% original paint on this. The other thing I did is cleaned all the glass. I've always said, never underestimate the power of just cleaning the glass on an old car. It levels it up so much no matter what else is wrong with it. Now, because I am trying to unload this, I'm gonna walk around and show you all the body damage on it, or as one of my followers called them, memories in metal. Here's a good memory right here. Probably not a great one. That is the worst dent in the whole thing. It is a little bit smashed. Down here, it's got some creases and some dents. Basically, every panel has got a little bit of agricultural love to it. It's just been used a lot and it's been run into a couple of things. The rest of the bed is pretty good. You can see that it used to have a big step bumper on the back, and that's what used to bolt right here, and that's what that witness mark is from. Tailgate, little bit of a dent right there. I love how this thing opens. It's so solid. Look at that. So much better than most old trucks. I really dig it. So that's it for the tailgate. It does have a WAP right there. This side, the paint came out a little bit foggier than it did on the driver's side. It's still got some sort of stains of oxidation on it. Also just your normal dents, inside dents. Don't consider this thing to be super straight really anywhere, but it's also not super bad. But here is the key to this truck. It is so rust-free. It is stunning how little rust this has. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you that right there is the rust that I have been able to find on this. The floorboards, from what I'm able to see from the underside, are really, really good. Oh, look inside the bed. This is surprisingly not bashed up for a farm truck. It really is good. Minimal dents on the inner fender wells, and the floor of it, fantastic. I do think somebody painted this sort of, I don't know, spatter paint. What was that stuff called? Oh, I forget the name. Zolatone. I think somebody sprayed that stuff on there. Oh, let's also have a look in the interior. Inside, you know what is the best about this? It has way more room than a Chevy or Ford of the similar era. It's really pretty comfortable. All right, let's start with the seat. I pointed out earlier that it's got 2 saddle blanket seat covers on it. It's pretty comfortable. The foam is not too mangled out on it. The floor mat appears to be original. It's got some tears and cracks in it, but it is presentable. The dash, I'm pretty sure someone painted that gray. It looks to me like it probably had more of a silver color that you can see through all of the scratches in it, and the same is true for the door panels. Maybe somebody who's more of an international guy can tell me if that's correct or not. If they did paint it, they did a really good job because there's not overspray on the rubber or anything like that. I don't know, maybe it's original. The gauges, I think the only one that really works is oil pressure. It's got a tack down here underneath the dash. It says Big Red on it. Overall, pretty good. Still has the headliner and what I believe to be an aftermarket package shelf on there. Oh, let's just hop in. Oh, look at the seating position on that thing. See the legroom? My leg is straight, completely good. And the 4-speed is genius. Really nice feel of that truck 4-speed right there. And look at the pedals, they're huge. Kind of funky big. I kind of dig the International. Why am I getting rid of this again? Let's have a look at that BG241. Oh, here's the thing. This door doesn't close awesome. Let's see. Yeah, I give it kind of a slam and I can pretty much pull it open. That probably needs some fiddling. That's pretty ungood. All right, engine. Oh, the hood. It's got some scratch marks and things from people sliding boxes over it over the years, but it's pretty good. I scratched it a little bit right here with a little bit of dirt underneath my scrubby sponge, so that was no good. Aha, the BG241. My pressure washing job did okay under here, and I wiped off the firewall in some places. It could actually be better. Brand new battery. Fluids are all topped off. If you see any water on the ground here, some of it's water dripping out of the bed from washing it, and some of it is the lower radiator hose was leaky, but I already fixed that. Let me fire it up for you and show you one kind of weird thing. Yes. Listen to that thing. It is running at 300 RPM. That's what the tach says, and if you listen to it, it is. Now, it sounds like it's got a tick or an exhaust leak or something. That is this thing right here, which is some sort of rudimentary EGR or something like that. But when you cover that, hear that? It gets a lot better. Okay. I think we need to take this thing for a ride. All right, let's see if I don't stall it. I'll go granny low. High perf. Right, I have not driven this in a while. Well, except for the other day when I just ran it up and down the block. No synchro into first, by the way. Wide open. Yeah, this is a feel-good truck. It's not fast, but it definitely has character. I will say the manual steering is pretty slow and pretty heavy. If you're gonna cruise this thing as is bone stock, it's probably best for just cruise nights and ranch use. I have driven it on the highway, but it does tack out. It is pretty slow. Transmission does not make any kind of a bearing noise or anything. Throttle bearing doesn't squeal. Clutch seems fine. If I come to a complete stop, does not grind into first. Wow, it lugs in second pretty good. This thing will run 300 RPM, it just chugs. It is definitely like a tractor. Great oil pressure. I don't know about the temperature, the gauge doesn't work. If you're used to old stuff, this truck's completely drivable. Man, this thing is sweet. It's really just a survivor. It takes the right guy, I think, to understand the truck because, yeah, it's sort of oddball. It's sort of ugly. Maybe you want to slam it on the ground and make it a hot rod. Maybe you just want to cruise it as is. I think it's good for anything. Now, obviously, I am trying to sell it, but I'm also trying to tell you the whole truth about this. I think the worst thing about it right now is that the brakes do drag. I think the master cylinder is holding some pressure, and so the brake drums are, you know, in contact with the shoes, and so it just drags a little bit. That's probably just a master cylinder swap away from greatness. I have driven this on the freeway before. Not 100% recommended, but it's not 100% death either. Another bad thing about it is that that door doesn't really stay latched. That would just take a little bit of fiddling. Now, the thing about the truck is, I'm gonna say you cannot find a 1966 or any 60s or even early 70s American truck, short bed, this rust-free, for the price that I want for this thing. Before I tell you the price, I'm gonna tell you how you can buy this. I am going to put a phone number in the description that you can call. That is my buddy Gil at Hot Rod Ranch, and he's helping me sell this thing. And then once it actually sells, I will take that out of the description and I will put in the description the fact that it's sold and for how much. I'll probably also put a comment on YouTube and pin it to the top. Therefore, when you're seeing this thing in like 2028 or something, you know that the truck's gone. So how much do I want for it? $5,000. I know you're gonna argue in the comments whether that's a good deal or far too much. I don't know, argue it out. I'm sure I will get the thing sold. And when I do, once again, I will put in the description and pinned in the comments how much it actually sold for. The International is pretty great.